So how do CFOs use ChatGPT, or rather, how can accountants use AI? That is exactly what I'm going to go through in today's videos. Just a high-level overview of things that you can think about to use ChatGPT or other AI to help you with your work. And then more specifically, thinking about a CFO of a startup or scale-up, how they can use it to help. And I'll give a few examples. Hi, my name is Alysha Randall of Financial Leadership Foundations, and I do fractional CFO work with Fast Growth Consulting, and I also teach new and aspiring CFOs or finance leaders in this space. And as I mentioned at the beginning, today I really wanted to go through ChatGPT and AI. Now, most people that I know or work with, my colleagues, the network, pretty much everyone uses ChatGPT now. There are a few edge cases. It has been a couple of years now. But I do come across sometimes people that know they should be using it, but don't quite know how they can be using it. Or rather, they use it in their social life, but don't know how to apply it within the corporate setting, within a startup or scale up. So I'm always personally interested in these kind of videos because even though I do use AI quite heavily, there's always different ways of using it. There's probably something I've never thought of before. And so I always like to hear how other people are using it. 9 times out of 10, there's at least one area that I realized that I had never thought of it. So today I'm going to go through quite a few examples. So if you stick around to the end, you'll see me giving you some demonstrations as well on how I use it. Now, if you are a new or aspiring CFO within a startup or scale up, click subscribe because that is exactly what I talk about. So a few areas that you can use ChatGPT in the workplace as a finance leader. The first one is brainstorming and thinking outside the box. So specifically when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about risk management and risk assessment. So as a CFO or as the finance leader within a startup or scale up, you do have to think about the risks quite regularly. And often the risks are blindingly obvious and you can identify them and potentially mitigate against them. But sometimes it's not as clear cut, or rather you can think of the main risks, but you're not thinking about the small outside risks. So because I work with multiple clients, a good way of using ChatGPT as helping you to brainstorm is firstly, I put in, without putting in anything too confidential, I put in what the company does, who the customers are, what the business model is, how far they are in their business cycle, so have they achieved product market fit, those kind of things, who the key suppliers are, and what industry they're in, because obviously fintech, there's more risks than other industries. And I would ask ChatGPT to give me a deep analysis on what all of the potential risks could be. Now, obviously, ChatGPT is not perfect, so it will give me a really comprehensive list of potential risks. I will take those and I will decide whether it's relevant for my company or not. A lot of the times they are, I'd say at least half are relevant. And of course, there's always some that aren't relevant. So I would take those and then personally, I'd probably extrapolate them a bit or put them together in a risk assessment report or just type them up or put them in an Excel spreadsheet, because usually with a startup or scale up, there is no risk register. So you could form this as a basis of your risk register. It's certainly not getting done. Just ask ChatGPT, create risk register and job done. You still need to take it to your leadership team because every company has its own nuances. So you can certainly use this as a starting point. And then off the back of that, you can ask, particularly with areas where you don't know how to mitigate against the particular risk. I mean, there's some that you can't do too much, but it's another way of brainstorming. How can I mitigate against these risks? What are different ideas? Remind ChatGPT that you are working for a startup with limited resources. So sometimes it will come to you with great mitigation ideas, but would only work if you're in a large corporate setting. So you do have to train it a little bit. The next way that I use ChatGPT is when I'm doing financial analysis, not on private information. There is still a question on security. I know there's closed circuit versions. Because I'm working for startups and scale-ups, I pay for my ChatGPT each month, but I'm unsure about the confidentiality, and I certainly don't want to breach my clients' trust. So instead of the financial analysis on the companies that I am working on, instead I use it when I'm looking at competitors or similar businesses. So as part of CFO, you are often looking at competitors, or you're looking at similar businesses in different regions, or there's a market leader in another country, for example, and they're publicly listed. And so by downloading their financial data and feeding that into ChatGPT, you can ask some very specific questions around the KPIs, around what is making this work, unit economics, all these different things. Why is this business successful? And it can give you again, it's a good guidance that you can start with and then do further analysis on your own. Similar to this is also, and I'll show you at the end, you as an accountant, you often will get quite detailed reports when there's been industry changes or industry insights or an accounting legislation change or a tax change. And I know for me personally, when it's really, really busy, I could easily just store reams and reams and reams and reams of reports and just never get time to read them. So I use ChatGPT to summarize these reports for me. So sometimes if I'm looking for something specifically, so again, startups or scale up, how does this affect this industry, the UK industry? And I'll ask ChatGPT to give me a really good summary of this report. It's obviously not going to be perfect, but it is much better to get a summarized version of a report that you can easily digest. And if you feel there's something really important that you do need to look for, you can ask ChatGPT which part you need to read to get more detail on a specific piece of information. Or you can ask ChatGPT to give you more information on the part of the report that you find interesting. I feel that this is much more use of your time than spending a lot of time reading or not reading it at all, which is probably more likely than not. So it is brilliant for summarizing really detailed reports. And again, you can ask it to give you more information if you feel that you need. Another way I have used it is when I'm moving into a new industry, or I'm moving into a new client, and I sometimes need ChatGPT to help me with brainstorming again. So it may be, say, financial KPIs. So say I have been working in fintech for ages and I start working with a tech SaaS business. I can just go to ChatGPT and say, can you give me a list of typical KPIs that we would track in a tech SaaS business? It will give you a list. If there's anything you don't understand, ask it to explain more. It will explain how to calculate them, why it's important. You could ask for some guidance on industry averages, but I'd probably use a different AI for that. So it's a very good place to start if you're in a new industry, because when you're moving from one industry to another, you do need to do quite a bit of education. I have written about this and I'll leave a link for that. But using ChatGPT is a good shortcut way to get your knowledge up. Another one is written policies. So this is actually one of the reasons why I find ChatGPT really useful is when you're having to write a report or a policy. Or 2 years ago, you were starting with a blank page. And what ChatGPT has helped us with today is that we no longer have to start with a blank page. We can go to ChatGPT and say, I've got this type of company, this many employees, these kinds of expenses. I'm in the UK, so use UK English. And can you please write an expense policy that covers this topic, and it will write it for you. And then you download that and you edit it. And you make it a bit more relevant to the company you're working with. Now, instead of an expense policy taking you a few hours, it will literally take 15 minutes. And so any type of policy, memo, any of those kinds of things, I always start with ChatGPT and then edit. Excel formulas and software, how to use software, coding, but anything that you don't know how to use in Excel, or if you're having to switch to Google Sheets like you do with a lot of startups and scale-ups and you have never used Google Sheets before, anything you don't know how to do from a software perspective, ChatGPT is invaluable. I remember having to Google what I want to do in Excel, and then you have to click on quite a few different articles until you find the one you want. You don't do that anymore. You just go straight to ChatGPT. So there's no subjectiveness anymore. Written is obviously subjective, and this has become quite the topic now, but I'm not going to delve into that. But as far as mathematics, Excel formulas, software formulas, it's not subjective. It is black or white, wrong or right. It will give you the right answer. So don't even hesitate using ChatGPT for those things. Email templates, again, if there's a difficult email that you have to write, just pour the email that you're responding to or what you want to write into ChatGPT. It'll write an email for you. I would highly recommend that you do edit it to make it sound less like a Silicon Valley bot. But again, if you're stuck at a blank page, just get ChatGPT to write it for you first, and then you can do what you need for it. I also find that any copy that I need to do, and I start with ChatGPT. Or sometimes if I were a startup, you're sitting in a room of commercial people, you're brainstorming product names, you're brainstorming titles, just ask ChatGPT to give you 10 options. Take the one that you like the most and then try again. It's so great to help you with brainstorming. So any type of brainstorming, such as titles, such as brand names, ChatGPT now is very useful for that. And then asking how-to questions. I would mix between Perplexity AI actually and ChatGPT. So I want to introduce Perplexity here because we're accountants and we care about legislation, we care about things that are live today, and we often do know to go to source. Well, actually, I would highly recommend that you go to source. So, and this is where Perplexity is really useful. So I'm going to show you Perplexity now, and then I'll show you a quick little thing on ChatGPT. So in Perplexity, it is a similar kind of visual as ChatGPT, if you've used that before. But for example, if you want to say, what are the current government grants available in the UK for a tech startup business? And what it'll do is it'll give you a response as you would expect. So here I know Innovate UK is the main one, so it's good to see. There's all these different other ones. Now, what it gives you, which is why I find this invaluable, is the links to where it got its sources. So here you can see there's 3 sources at the top, plus another 6 sources. So if I wanted to, I have a quick look at this, and if there's some where I think, oh, actually that's interesting, I would really like to look at that one. And you can click on that and it will follow up this question. Or you can click on one of these links to see where it got its information. So I find if I want to know how to do something, or another way of thinking about it is I use Perplexity instead of Google. So I do actually still use Google a lot, but I am finding I'm using Perplexity more and more. The reason is because when you go on to Google, it will give you a list of all of these type of links. But sometimes I just want a summary, and then I'll go and have a deeper look at the topic that I'm interested in. So I know Google has changed somewhat and it's giving you some of the AI at the top. And I think this may be because Perplexity is quite good at it. So anything that's accounting specific, tax specific, I need to understand something. I want to see the links. I want to, read into it deeper. Perplexity is far superior. Okay, Now, in preparation for this video, I downloaded a KPMG report, and it is 96 pages, as you can see here at the top, 1 to 96 pages. Now, I can tell you, and this is a global analysis of venture funding, so you can see how this topic is important for someone like me who works in startups and scale-ups, and potentially you, if you're watching this video. I am not going to read this. So January 15, 2025, so it's quite a recent one. So I am going to download this and I'm going to upload it into ChatGPT. So I'll just show you that now. So here is my ChatGPT. So I'm going to upload the actual report. So click the upload, go to downloads, KPMG, and I'm going to say, here is a KPMG report on venture funding. Can you please give me a high level summary with, let's say, 10 key points that are relevant for me as a fractional CFO for startups and scale-ups in the UK? So one benefit also of ChatGPT, if you haven't used it much, is that doesn't care about spelling mistakes. So that didn't work very well. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, so this time I've actually uploaded the PDF rather than the JPEG. So I'm just going to send that now, and it's just taking a little while. Oh, there we go. It's quite quick. So there we go. I've uploaded the PDF. So let's see what it's going to say. But this is where it's such a time saver. And as I said, I'd much rather get a summary that potentially isn't as good as, say, what a human may do who understands my specific situation. But it is better than not reading it at all. So here you can see it's going to give me 10 point forms and then a little bit more detail after that. So one thing that's quite interesting for me here, it's saying that exits are slowing, investors are turning to secondary funds as a liquidity option, UK scale-ups may need to explore alternative funding models if IPO or M&A options remain limited. M&A remains primary exit route. That's interesting because, well, actually, because IPOs aren't happening, so that's fine. Valuations are holding steady. UK and Europe likely to lead in clean tech. That's interesting as well. Yeah, I've got 2 clients now in clean tech. Fundraising remains difficult, absolutely. And then it gives me some tips on fractional CFO. Now, I hadn't actually done this, so this is first time reading for me as well, but that is angel and seed stage funding declined. Yes, I've definitely seen that. So that's been really interesting, and I'll probably read that again after this video. But this is like a perfect example, time saver. And then I'll just do quickly that expense. So I'll say I am working, this is made up, for a early stage tech SaaS business. They have, let's say, 30 staff. Most are tech, a few enterprise sales who do some lunches and travel. I'd like a credit card use policy for corporate and virtual credit cards on that discusses say tech subscription, traveling, entertainment, allow for input on limits. Can you draft this policy that I can edit later? Okay, now I probably could have added quite a bit more into that, but it gives me a high level starting point. And a lot of the time, actually, now it's taking this piece, all of this text here, so that you don't have to copy and paste. It actually will put it into a separate file for you that you can download. And here you can see all the different things that's going to it. Now, what you can do, sometimes you read it, you're like, oh, that's not quite right. That's not quite what I wanted. And you can say, can you add this, take this out, and then it'll just do it for you. And then basically, and probably I haven't put in the process, for example, I know in the UK, if we had this many emojis, people would probably light the policy on fire. So There's a few different things that I would change, but it can show you how it can give you, with very limited instructions, quite a good starting point, essentially. So anyway, I'll let that crack on. But that is exactly how I use ChatGPT and Perplexity. So it's how CFOs, me being a CFO, use ChatGPT, and it's how accountants can use AI, artificial intelligence. So there's a couple of options there. No doubt I will find more and more uses. No doubt you will too. If there's something that you would love to share, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always willing to learn. Lots of people have heard you're not going to be put out of a job by AI. It's people who are using AI are going to put you out of a job. So if we can all teach each other, we can continue using AI and be one of those front leaders. So I'd love to hear how you are using AI in your startup and scale up finance role. And it's would be great to share. But otherwise, I hope that you found those tips useful, and I'll see you in next week's video.